Um, Good evening and welcome. My name is Ryan Letts. On behalf of the Kent-Ionia Labor Council, I would like to thank all of you for attending. I would like to thank the Women's Caucus of the Labor Council for going through the hard work of putting this together. And I would certainly like to thank all of the candidates here for showing up. I know that their time is very valuable in this election cycle. I'm going to go through a little bit of the forum structure, and then when I'm done, I'm going to hand it over to the candidates. Each one is going to have the ability to go through a little 2-minute remark, summarize their campaign, and tell us anything that they feel we should know about them. So the forum structure is as follows. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, summarize their campaign. Our Women's Caucus has come up with 6 questions tonight. They will be asking those questions from this podium. Each individual will have up to 2 minutes to answer each one of those questions. We'll be going in a rotating type of an order. And then when we're through with the questions, each candidate will have the ability to then go through and follow up with closing remarks and to state anything that they might want to before we conclude today. So with that being said, I will start off and allow Rosalynn to begin.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, first I just want to thank everyone who worked hard to put this together. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. A little bit about me. I am currently a second ward city commissioner, so I was elected 10 years ago, actually, back in 2005. I'm in my 3rd term on the city commission, and then most of you know that the city commission, we are part-time elected officials. So my full-time job, I'm the director of residential services at Dave Lodge at St. John's. So my background is social work and criminal justice, and then I have a master's degree in social work. And I've been in the field of child welfare for about 15 years, and before that worked in the field of domestic violence, and then before that worked with adults who had a chronic mental illness. So my work in the field, I'm really proud of the work that I've done in the field, but I'm also really proud of the work I've done on the commission. So one of the reasons I'm running for mayor is because I feel really good about the work that we've done at City Hall. So when I was elected 10 years ago, the city was facing a significant economic downturn, and we were making significant cuts in the city, services were being cut, and I was really concerned about the impact that would have on the people that live in our city, the people I represent. And so, over these last 10 years, we've worked really hard as a body, and we've worked hard with our employees and our unions and our community partners and neighbors to make a lot of hard decisions and, in my opinion, get the city in a positive place, but also in really strong financial ground. And I'm proud of the work that we've done. We have moved in a positive direction. We're moving in a positive direction in our city. I want to build on that because I think we have a lot of work to do. But I also recognize that we have a lot of issues in our city that need to be tackled. And I want to be a part of tackling those tough issues. I want us to be an open city. I want us to be a city where everyone has opportunity. And so I'm excited at the opportunity to serve as mayor and to work with other individuals and groups who are working really hard in our community to make our city a better place for everybody. So that's why I'm running. If you want me to talk a little bit about the campaign, I'm sure all of us are out campaigning and working hard, but number one priority is to connect with people, to talk to people, to listen to people, to understand the issues, and then to work with them to come up with some solutions. So thank you again for having me tonight. I'm really glad to be here.
That's the buzzer, by the way, for the 2-minute warning.
Thank you.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I knew I was winding down. So.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Dean. I've been a pastor for the past 35 years. I've been married next month 41 years, and people were, why are you running? Aren't you afraid? I've been married 40 years. And I've been a state representative. I've been a city commissioner for 6 years. I have 6 years on the Grand Rapids Public School Board. And I'm running because of my grandchildren. As I begin to look at some of the things, many of the things that have been done in our city, many things that we can build on, but when we look at the present, where are we going into the future? To be realistic, the future is not so rosy if we are bankrupt. And the direction we're heading in, it's not a good one. One of the things that really bugs me or bothered me when I begin to look at the numbers and begin to look at the picture, I begin to see a trend that's happening, and it seemed like it's building on the back of our workers. It seemed like it's taking from the middle, it's taking from the bottom, and wow, everything seems to be flowing to the top. Well, as I begin to look at where are we going for our future, we need to make some changes. I do not want my grandchildren to be saddled with a debt that we are coming to. We are coming to a fiscal cliff. But then there needs to be a voice at the table that says, you know, enough is enough. Let's get back to our core function. Let's get back to the essential services that our city needs to do, needs to have, so that we are welcoming, so that we are inviting. And we want those that are here to want to remain here. So we have an extensive background, not only in the city, not only in our state, but in our educational. So those are the things that I bring to the table. There are a number of things that we initiated, that we started, that are still being trumpeted, that are still being celebrated. And I want to continue some of those things and look at some of the things that were done that we can yet build on for our future.
Hello, my name is John George. You're probably mostly aware that the reason I got into this race was due to the issue of water fluoridation. We've had water fluoridation for 70 years, and I've gone through and done a lot of research, and there are a lot of ill effects due to fluoridation. If you have children, you should really educate yourself about fluoridation. Harvard did a study. There was a 20-point drop in IQs children. York University in Toronto did a study, and they showed that ADHD was caused by fluoride in the water. There's effects on pets. There's effects on the pituitary gland, thyroid. It's just really something you should look into. We've had it in the water 70 years. Back in 1945, they didn't have anywhere near the ability to analyze data that we do now. But I'm not a single issue candidate. I am looking at the fiscal cliff that Reverend Dean talked about. We've got between 500 million and $1 billion in upcoming debt due to retirement plans of city workers. Unfunded liabilities, that's what that is. I've talked about the federal takeover of local police forces. In fact, I was the first one in the city to even know that was occurring. There's a federal plan to militarize the local police force, so I'm looking into that.
My name is Willard Lee. I was born here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm 26 years old. I went to Ottawa Hill High School. I'm certified HVAC repair security, but I work for the temp services in a factory. My goal for running for the mayor's seat is to help out the homeless, our veterans, and domestic violence cases for the women who get abused or or males, and they are apparently housing and requirements for them is very steep and low. I was informed by the person that brought this to my attention that after their time is up, they are put out and they have no place to go and nobody else cares about them. Along with our Reverend and John's opinion about the future, I do think that we need to do something about the money income for the children, the future for schools. Our schools need to be better for everybody else, public schools, because I don't see why public schools should be at a disadvantage over a private school. And my campaign is basically based on the veterans, homeless, and trying to make it for everybody to have a place to stay or a roof over their heads. So, that's it.
Welcome, candidates. My name is Lisa Angus. I'm the second vice president of the GREIU. And my first question is, what do you see as the most pressing issue facing Grand Rapids? And I'd like to start with Rosalynn Bliss.
Thank you. Well, I think we have a lot of have been actively engaged in discussing and looking at housing strategies in our city. As the city has grown, we are seeing an economic boom in many areas. The market is growing, and with that, people are being priced out of their homes, out of apartments, and I'm very, very concerned about housing and having affordable, quality housing for families and children in our community. We also face an issue around maintaining and keeping the strong place, the stable financial position that we're in on the city, maintaining that going forward. This past budget that we passed was the first time, well, we were able to put a significant amount of money into a budget stabilization fund, which we haven't been able to do in the past because of the budget. So we are starting to put money in savings to make sure that if an economic downturn occurs again, we're in a good place and we're not gonna be having to do what we did 10 years ago when we had to lay off hundreds of employees. Other pressing issues, so I wanna make sure that we maintain that and keep that, and that really takes, it takes being very firm and sound and making good, sound fiscal decisions. We also face a number of other issues in our community about being welcoming and inclusive. The fact that the Forbes report shows that that families in our community who are African American are not prospering, that they don't have access to opportunity, that is unacceptable in our city, and we need to do much better. It has to be one of our priorities moving forward. We have to be looking at that every single time that we're looking at policies. We have to make sure that they're inclusive. We also have to look at within the city, we have to look at our own workforce. 2 minutes goes by fast.
Obviously, the problems that we really face really is based upon the economics, and that if we don't have a sound, stable fiduciary position that we're in, that we cannot go forward. And you cannot borrow your way out of debt. You cannot borrow your way to prosperity. You can't rob Peter to pay Paul. And so those are the things that you have to really be transparent, have things on the table. Everything really needs to be on the table. We're gonna spend $2.5 million for a golf course. Why are we subsidizing something when we need more cops on the streets? We need more feet on the street. There was a police tax that was passed that we only received 3 police officers. Now this year's budget does have 6 officers included. Whoop-de-doo. Where's the rest of the money? Why are we not doing what we say we're going to do? We have to get our fiscal house in order to really proceed from a sound position. That's one of the things that we have to do. You beat the clock.
You did.
Well, I'll carry on with that. Yes, there is that unfunded liability I mentioned earlier. And the city of Detroit went through the same thing, and they ended up going into bankruptcy. So I would like to avoid having Grand Rapids follow that path. Things can be rosy now. Obviously, everyone's aware that the stock market has been on an upward trajectory for about the last, well, since 2008. It's been trending higher. But when the next crash occurs, and not if, but when, is that going to throw this city into an untenable situation regarding its finances? I will just say I'm a fiscal conservative, and I would like to look and see where cuts could be made, and where, instead of always asking for more and more money from the citizens, how about we try to cut things to balance things out for a change? And that's not typically done in government, but I would like to go that way. That's good.
Well, I agree with John about the cuts, and I agree with everybody else about the money and that there's many problems that we got going here in Grand Rapids. But to me, the most pressing concern are people. People seem to become more and more disrespectful and unreliable as they go up over the years. If we had more care and we actually cared about the next individual, like say if you drive by an area and you see a homeless person there with their sign up saying homeless, anything helps, do you stop and think about giving that person something, or do you just look at them pretend they're not there or just drive by. People do this because they don't have value for the next person. People are focused on their own self because money and times are hard. So you can only focus on yourself. But if you can give that little bit of inch, they give a little bit of thought towards the next person, hopefully that rubs up and they're like, hey, somebody actually cares about my struggles, what I'm going to. They're going out their way and their struggle to help me out. So maybe I can try to do something better to repay their kindness that they gave to me or something else in general. I believe the main problem is people's morality, and it is going down, and it needs to come back up. And we need to figure out how to get people on the up and up where we can care for one another instead of just about ourselves.
Thank you. My second question. Governor Snyder recently signed HB 4052, which prohibits local governments from passing paid sick day, minimum wage, prevailing wage, and community benefit ordinances. Supporters of this bill say that it makes Michigan a more business-friendly environment by keeping employment requirements uniform across the state. Opponents say that this, among other things, will open us up to low-wage, out-of-state labor coming in to take our jobs on local construction projects. It also takes power away from local governments. What are your thoughts on this legislation, and do you think it will ultimately be good for our state and region? Robert Dean.
I've said this before, I've said it in the past, that we're seeming to be in a race with Mississippi, that they're trying to help us to go that route, because it is about quality of life issues, and if persons cannot have a decent living, decent wage, wow. You can't say that you want a free market society and regulate at the same time. There's something wrong with that dynamic in my mind. Having been in Lansing, I understand the process. I know how things get done. I know how to get things done. I come to the table with that knowledge in knowing how to thwart some of these things, how to change some of these things, how to make an impact on some of the legislation that's coming out of Lansing that is impacting negatively taking away local control. I have that dynamic. I have that skill set. So I feel real good about that, to be able to effectuate change in our city and in our state.
Yeah. Since this is a city government meeting, the city government should be in control. Unfortunately, a lot of things happen in federal and state legislation that takes control away from the city. A good example is the TPA that they just passed at the federal level, and it was signed into law by the president. That is, I'm not sure if you're, I'm sure you are aware of it because you're in labor, and that's natural on steroids, and that's going to suck more jobs out of this country. So, and to be truthful, I would have to look more into that bill to give you anything more specific.
First, I would like to say that I agree with the responses that y'all did on the bill and the hidden bills that came out throughout the legislation of trying to change taxes and wages, because I read it up on the computer a little while ago. And I agree that, granted, nobody really cares about what's going on in that person's city. The states just want to make more income for the whole United area because we're all in debt. So they're trying to take more and more without caring about, hey, you got to charge $1.50 for a bag of chips, but the person can only make $8 an hour. So they're increasing the price of goods and everything, but you're not increasing the price of living. So money will always, don't nobody want to offset the cost of living for your work. But I am definitely against it. People should be able to make at least more than $8 an hour to survive, because you can't do it. I myself am making barely above minimum wage, and I'm staying with a buddy of mine, and we are united. We're using our money together, trying to make it by every day. Because by yourself, you're struggling and scuffling. So the taxes and everything else trying to limit that, and when they limit it, that means we're making less than what we're already doing. And we already can't make it with what we're doing now, so we scuffling out, and we probably have to move back in with moms and dads, and hopefully that'll be enough. But apparently, I think the states don't really care about what's going on with the cities because they consider us to be small little areas, and we have to adapt to everything that everybody else is doing. And I think the power should stay within the cities where we can run our own areas, because we know what the people need, and people have to survive and keep our city growing and properly. If not, if another area can regulate our own city, then we have to follow theirs. Let's say Lansing is doing way better than Grand Rapids, but yet Grand Rapids still have to go by their rules. Their way of living is higher than ours, but ours is lower than theirs. So they can deal with the little less money, but we can't, because everything is higher here than it is over there. So I figure that they should figure out a way to at least balance it above here, to increase the wages instead of denying people more money. We all need more money to get by in life.
Thank you. So, the bill you're talking about is the preemption bill, and I serve on I'm a trustee for the Michigan Municipal League. I've been serving on that board for a number of years, and we actively oppose this bill. It's a terrible bill. It was a terrible bill when it was written. They did make amendments, but the bill that was finally passed is still a terrible bill. I'm also on the legislative committee, so at the city we have a legislative team, and so I've been actively engaged on legislative issues as a city commissioner. We work really closely with GCSI to lobby and to work on issues for us, and we also actively oppose this bill. But it did pass. It's a terrible bill. It erodes local control. I fundamentally believe that government works best when people are empowered to decide local issues on the local level. The interesting thing to me, and the frustration that I had with this bill and a number of other bills coming out of Lansing, is that with this one, you have the state all the time telling DC that they need local control, and they want DC to give them the ability to make decisions locally in the state, but yet here the state is passing a bill that's completely inconsistent with that, where they're taking away local control. So I think it's a terrible bill.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stacia Savage. I'm the business representative for IATC Local 26, and we represent the stage and film industry here in West Michigan. The first question I have for you today is, Michigan last year was ranked 5th in homelessness in the United States, affecting 86,000 residents. With an upcoming wave of expiring unemployment benefits potentially adding to that, how would you work to address an issue like homelessness in Grand Rapids? John George, you may go first.
That's a good question. I'm sure there are federal and programs which are used in this situation, and I'm not entirely sure how much input is at the city level. I'm not sure if that's in a budget or not. And again, I think I will have to study up a little more on that issue.
All right, I am all about this. This is one of the things I actually signed up to do in the first place. I actually have an idea that I thought about, and I ran it over with one of the people that take care of the building down on the vision, because my uncle stays in a low income area. And it's a superficial idea, but I think it'd be a wonderful idea if it can actually be possible. Throughout a month, either a person that is homeless or disabled, they may or may not receive relief from the state, either a welfare check or Social Security. So in taking that money that they have, we still have lots of abandoned buildings here in Grand Rapids. We can take their income and use it towards them, if they're able or willing, to help build up the buildings, our abandoned buildings, into a functional home for the kind of place to stay in. So we recycle the money back into ourselves by helping them give it to build up the building. They can have a roof over their heads and a place to call home, instead of just staying outside saying, I ain't got nothing to do, I ain't got nowhere to go. If I get $1.50, go get drunk and be belligerent. Or they can take their money and give it back to the state, and we work towards building our own buildings that we ain't using, and to something that someone else can use and have a life of themselves.
Thank you. Yeah, homelessness is a significant issue, especially in my work in social work. I work with a lot of families who struggle with homelessness, and there are things that we can do. So it was 10 years ago that the city worked in partnership with a number of organizations in our city, and we actually created a plan called Vision to End Homelessness. And in that plan were really bold goals, as I would say, and there were a lot of changes made because of that plan. It's 10 years ago, actually I think it was 2006, so we're coming up on 10 years. It's time to evaluate that plan. We need to look at what we've done well, we need to look at the progress we've made, we need to look at where we haven't done well, and we need to come up with additional goals. The other thing about homelessness, I am a firm supporter of the Housing First model and rapid rehousing. So people are homeless, they need homes. And then once they're in a home, then you can come in and provide services. But people shouldn't have to jump through hoops in order to get assistance with a home. So the Housing First program, it's a philosophy, rapid rehousing. We do that here in our community. We don't do enough of it, in my opinion. But that is a great model. Salt Lake City has a Housing First model. They aggressively have attacked homelessness, and they have seen dramatic improvements. And they base their entire program on the Housing First model. At the city, we also work really closely with nonprofits throughout the city. We use home dollars, so those are federal dollars that are allocated that we are the fiduciary for, and we work in partnership with local nonprofits like ICCF, Dwelling Place, Habitat for Humanity, to work with them to make sure that there's affordable housing, so those dollars go into building developments in target areas. I strongly support that program. I serve on a subcommittee where every year we look at proposals and we make decisions about how those funds will be allocated, and we've been doing that for a very long time. But homelessness is an issue. You know, I just talked to a woman recently who was struggling with homelessness, and the problem is that it's not an easy issue. It's complex. Thank you.
It's ironic for me. It's personal because I was homeless. I understand that it's not about a program, but it's about quality of life, and therefore I definitely have respect about a person's dignity. Not all persons want to have a home, and so you have to deal with mental health issues. There's a whole area, a whole plateau that you have to deal with. One of the things I feel really good about is the fact that we started that program to end homelessness when I was there on the city. It was one of the initiatives that we started doing, but then even going into the state, try to get the state to look at it from a whole different perspective, from an economic standpoint. Our prisons are filled with persons that have mental issues, and it's not because that they just want to be there in prison, but if you start helping them to deal with some of the mental issues, then you find that some of the homelessness goes away. In Grand Rapids, on any given night, there's almost 1,000 people that do not have a roof over their heads. Wow. We have to look at things creatively. We have to look at things from a whole different dynamic. There should be more public-private partnerships. That was one of the things that we were pushing, that the city was not the cure-all, the answer for it all, but working as a community. There's an old saying that says, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a city, all of it working together cohesively to end homelessness.
All excellent thoughts, thank you. My second question is a little personal to me because it irritates me. But what do you think that the long-term effects of the term limits that were recently passed will have on the city of Grand Rapids? And Willie, you go first.
Can you say that again?
The long-term effects of term limits here in Grand Rapids. Obviously, it's the first time that we're really dealing with it. A few people are.
The term limit is like 4 years, or I don't know what it is.
The term limits in the city of Grand Rapids, you can do 2 4-year terms, and then you are not eligible to run for office again for either a commissioner or a mayoral position.
Okay. Well,
Do you think there will be any long-term effects to this new rule recently passed?
I, for one, really don't think it should be, but it might be, because some people probably really love the position at the end and they don't want to go anywhere else. But I think it should be there validly, because either way, it's like anything else that you do. If you pick a job for somewhere else, the goal is to progress and go higher. And you can't go higher if you're just stuck there in that position. You don't want to go nowhere else. So I say if they like, say, the mayor seat. Let's say somebody was a mayor and it was like mayor for like 30 years, because there was no term limit there.
Sure.
Why did he not want to go anywhere else before he can have more impact on the place that he's running? Go for the governor where he can help the whole city and the whole state out. But with putting that limit there, that's forcing them to either, hey, you can't do this no more, pick something else, or go higher and bring your ideas and everything else to make everything else better. I think it should be good, because it should force people to pick up and go higher than where they was at before.
Rosalynn?
You know, I respect the vote of the people, and we pass term limits in our community, and that's the democratic process. Personally, I'm opposed to term limits. I've always been opposed to term limits. Elections are term limits. I think if somebody's doing a good job, you should be able to vote for them again. You know, the immediate effect is that as of next year, we're gonna have 3 out of 7 individuals on the commission who will be brand new. And we're gonna have, in my opinion, I think we'll have increased turnover, which I think can potentially impact policy. You know, you look at what's happened in Lansing, and I'm very concerned that decisions are being made based on the short-term impact, on the impact of, 2 to 4 years, and we're missing the long view. Decisions need to be made thinking what's the impact, the long-term impact, 10, 20 years out. So I am concerned. I mean, can I predict what the impact will be? No. But it's concerning. I think experience matters. I think experience and expertise and knowledge and leadership positions matter. At my job at St. John's, you know, when I'm interviewing for someone to lead a team, experience matters. And I hope they're there for more than 8 years. That's my hope, because as they do the job, they're gonna get better at that job.
Mr.
I'm obviously a person who's very concerned about it. The people have spoken here in Grand Rapids, but from the state level, the state perspective, I've seen how term limits have impacted our state, and the long-term legacy costs are just astronomical. What other job can you be 6 years and now you're going out the door? Or 8 years if you're on the Senate side, and then you're going out the door. I don't say get rid of term limits, but definitely we should extend term limits so that, yes, the people still feel they have that control, because we've seen too much abuse on the other side. And that's why the will of the people has been heard. There are persons that were sitting in long-term have become career politicians. And yes, I see even now I feel the incumbent protection program at work. I literally thought I was done, but like I said earlier, it was about my grandchildren, about their future. What's going to be the future of our city for my grandchildren? I want them to want to live here and want to raise a family in Grand Rapids. So there go I. And for me, it's not about the ego, it's not about next position, it's not about, oh, I just want to be mayor. No, I know I have the skills to help bring positive change in our city.
Excellent. Mr. George?
I'm in favor of the term limits. I look at public service as public service, so I feel people should go in, do their service, and then there are always people behind them to take over with fresh viewpoints. Actually, this country, constitutionally, it was when they wrote the Constitution, they had a 2-year term for representatives. And that was so people would go serve, go off their farms, go serve for 2 years, and then let somebody else do it. So I'm in favor of the term limits. I think we're not replacing the entire government at one time. So there will be overlap. We'll have people with experience and people learning. And as the people coming in learn, the people with experience will be leaving, then they will have the experience and interface with the new people. So I'm in favor of term limits.
Excellent thoughts. Thank you very much. with OPEIU, Local 277. I'm also chairman of the Women's Caucus. My first question would go to you, Rosalynn. How have your experiences, both professional and personally, directly prepared you to be an effective mayor of Michigan's second largest city?
Well, I have, I think my experience both as a city commissioner as well as my experience as a director at St. John's has helped me build the skills needed to be an effective mayor. So on the commission, I've had the opportunity to serve on a number of boards and commissions locally, both at the county level and the city level, as well as at the state level. So at the city, I've chaired the fiscal committee, so I have a strong grasp of where the city is financially. I currently chair the community development committee. I serve on the economic development project team. And all of that has given me this great opportunity to learn about what it takes to be an effective leader. I've served as president of the commission, so when the mayor, our current mayor, was out, I would stand in for him. That was great experience. I've also been able to work with neighborhood organizations to tackle tough issues in neighborhoods. Reinvesting and revitalizing neighborhoods is one of my top priorities. So I've been able to work with a number of neighborhoods in our community to identify tools that can be used to help support the redevelopment of neighborhoods. And then at St. John's, I've been able to work effectively to build a program to get through tough times. It wasn't just public sector that struggled during the economic downturn, nonprofits did as well. And as a manager, I'm able to, set high expectations. I'm able to solve difficult problems. I'm able to bring people together to think creatively and then hold people accountable. My personal life, obviously, that shapes me in many ways. My family, my faith, my experience, largely my experiences growing up. I've learned so many things from my family and from my experiences. And, I have a strong work ethic. I listen. I work hard. I come together with people to try to understand the issue. And I'm task oriented, and so I'm dedicated to being a problem solver and to working with people, helping to identify resources that we can utilize to really move our city forward and move it in a positive direction for everyone.
Well, I tell you, after almost 41 plus years of marriage, you learn a lot, you see a lot, and you learn. I've been to 39 countries, and it doesn't matter where you go, it's always about home. What do you do about home? How do I help better home? And so now we have 35 years of pastoring, and there are a number, as Commissioner Bliss was stating, a number of committees that have been there, done that. Not a lot of those we initiated, a lot of those we started. The Civilian Appeals Board, the Police Chiefs Advisory Committee, the School City Liaison Committee. Those are things that we started. The Institute for the Healing of Racism. I've been on over 40 boards of directors. You learn a number of things. You learn how to bring diverse groups together. I've been the vice chair of appropriations in our state. Wow, talking about diversity of thought, of opinion, bringing those entities to the table and getting things done, delivered results. That's what it's been about. Down through the years, as you begin to look at my history, my record, we've delivered results, Have not been just a talker, have not been one to just say, promise the moon, and then all of a sudden disappear. But it's been about delivering results. We are here to make a positive impact in our city, building on the past, looking at where we are now, but we have to ensure that the future is viable for our city, our community, as well as our state.
Well, as a lifelong engineer, I understand how to work in a team-oriented environment. If you look at your cell phone, one person didn't create that. There's the design engineering, there's maintainability, producibility, quality, on and on. And I've worked in that type of environment. Engineer is actually a problem solver, so that's kind of, I enjoy that type of solution. Being in private industry, I've also seen how the retirement benefits has changed over the years. When I first went in, that it was always a defined benefit, and when I left engineering, it was a defined contribution plan. So this is part of the problem we're having with our unfunded liability, and I think maybe I'm in a unique position to see that, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. So that's my background.
Well, first, I hope nobody take offense for what I'm about to say. I'm 26 years old, but I feel like I probably lived a life fuller than mostly everybody in here. I joined the military. I traveled around the world. I seen what is like outside the United States for the 8 years of my life that I left. I've been homeless also, as traveling around, because sometimes you don't have money wherever you go. My experience consists of everything from being a custodial worker all the way up to being a secretary. I have been all kinds of civil jobs. I've been a soldier. I've been housekeeper, cleaning up, picking up people's linen, picking up trash, taking out trash, garbage. Every regular Joe job. That's what I've done. I've never been in any political area like my other candidates may have been. Haven't served the city. Haven't done nothing for the city. But I have experienced and grew up and through all the stuff that actually matters for the city. And I've been there through the people, through their lives, and the stuff that goes on in the city that the political people and up don't realize or understand or care about what's happening to the regular person everyday life. And I've been through that. That's why I'm here trying to get this voiced up and changed for the regular citizen. But my experience, yes, I may be lacking in experience compared to my fellow candidates because I'm younger. Now, most of y'all probably ain't paying no heed to what I have to say or care, because I'm the youngest candidate, but that's what I have to say. I'm here to try to change something, regardless.
With right to work, the law of Michigan for almost 3 years now, where do you see the state of organized labor in Michigan in the next 10 to 20 years? And we will start with you, Robert.
I was very much against it when I was there in the state, and we fought against that. Ironically, after I left, it finally went through. And yet said that we're in a race to the bottom with the state of Mississippi. I keep saying that. I keep emphasizing that because it's about quality of life issues. You can't treat people as if they're non-people and expect people to respond positively when they are not making the wages. And I begin to look at some of our CEOs that are jumping ship with the golden parachutes, and yet our workers are suffering. It's amazing the disconnect. How do we do that? There are a number of things that need to be done, that have to be done, even before you have crises. How do you respond to it? Well, you prepare going in. I was the chair of a civil service board, so I had to know each and every job in the city of Grand Rapids because persons were coming before our committee. How do we handle them? Well, you have to do your background. You have to do your homework so that you understand the ins and outs of the issues, so that you understand what's really going on, what's being done or what's being said without being said. How do you adjudicate that? So I have a number of things that I know that we've done in the past, and as we look at how do we restore some things, and some things the city needs to get out of that it has gotten into, and to go back to the core functions so that we are on sound fiscal footing. That's where we have to really do that. We have to look at the workers, retraining workers, not just turning them out into the street, not just laying them off, but making sure, ensuring that we are protecting, that we are helping, because it impacts the bottom line, the economics of our city. And so that's where the extensive experience in doing that. I hear you.
Right to work has been passed in a lot of states. And it's an emergency situation. I am also for a good wage for workers. But that's, again, sometimes the things you can do at the city level are superseded by things that are done at the state and federal level. I spoke about the TPA before. That is going to be a disaster if TPP is also passed for workers. So it's difficult as a mayor to have a lot of input when things are happening at state and federal levels, which are so deleterious to the job market and to wages and to everything to do with that.
I agree with what John said, and I also like to just say that although I am for higher wages, but when it comes down to it, this world is messed up and everybody wants to get the better of the next person. So you might go to school, have a degree, and you're certified to do whatever, but to get the job is literally about the person that you know. So as for the next 10 years, it's still going to be, I believe it's going to be how it is now. Nothing's going to change. If you want a higher job, it's either you know that individual, no matter how certified you are, the person who knows that person is going to get the job over you, no matter how certified you are. But on a better note, people should try to go to school and get degrees if they want more pay. Because I work in the factories, granted, that's my choice. I could probably attempt to get a better job if I want, but I like the temp work because I can go and leave when I want. I say this because while I'm there are people there complaining about the pay. They $10 an hour, which is more than my cousin gets, who's working at McDonald's, which is $7.50 to $8 for my other nieces or nephews. But he's complaining about it, and I asked him, did you go to school? Did you get any background? Did you try to get any degree or certification for anything? And he says no, and he complains about the work that he's doing. If you want to better yourself, go to school. That's what it's for you can get certification and get the money, because you are paid on the skill level that you got. If you have no skills or no backing for nothing, you shouldn't complain about a little bit of money that you get. Better yourself to get more income if you choose to do that. Otherwise than that, sit back, get your little $10 an hour or $8, because you aren't trying to do anything about it. You have no skill set, so why complain about it? But some jobs do give you a chance to improve your skills. They give classes and courses where you can improve and move up inside the company, learn leadership, and everything else. If more companies take these initiatives, because some of the places that I worked at had these programs which they were offering to their employees. But the funny story is, some of them didn't want to take it because they didn't so-called want the responsibility for moving up, because they only was getting that extra 50 to a quarter raise for the extra work that they would have to do for this position.
Sorry.
I think organized labor will evolve and adapt to the new environment. I think there's a role for them for organized labor to continue to play in our state. I think they will continue to play an important role in our state. Like anything, I think when changes come at you, it's time to pause and listen to your members, identify what the needs are, and then provide and meet those needs. And I anticipate that will happen. At the city, we have 13 unions that we work with, and I've talked to a lot of city employees. City employees come to me when there are issues, and over, year over year, I've heard city employees tell me how much they appreciate the union. And I just talked to an employee a couple weeks ago who's going through a grievance process, and she particularly appreciates the union. Being there with her, beside her, helping her as she goes through this grievance process. The fact that she's not alone and she has somebody that she feels is supporting her is really critical. And so I think that will continue to be an important role for organized labor. And then I anticipate that organized labor will continue to be a strong voice for the working class. We need that. And they'll continue to do that on the local level and state level and national level. So that's what I anticipate.
Well, thank you very much, candidates, for your time for coming here, and thank you everybody in the audience for coming. On behalf of the Women's Caucus, we wanted to say a special thank you to the Central Labor Council for allowing the Women's Caucus to organize the forum to be here tonight. Thank you. Have a good evening.